Hi Cherry Pies, this is my current altar setup for my main working altar. It's very tame for one of my altars, I must say. I normally go a lot more crazy than this. I normally, well, this isn't crazy at all. This is really very conservative. Normally I have a very surreal altar, which is normally populated by things like children's toys and kind of items that kind of speak to me on a spiritual level, but are also kind of rather absurd. Like I have a wind-up nun that shoots fire out of her mouth, things like that. I like to put things like that on my altar. But I felt really in a very zen and very balanced and very poised place when I came up with this altar setup. And I think that it really speaks to this sense of just wanting to connect with the divine feminine and wanting to connect with my own sense of potential and the divine feminine empowerment within me. And that was kind of what I was going for, and that's very much how it turned out. So I'm going to talk you through my altar setup at the moment, talk about a few key things on the altar and a few key things that I do as a witchy being. And I'm also going to talk you through my incense collection. If you did not watch my video entitled Spiritual Musings and Shiny New Things, I talk about my incense collection in that video, so if you want to use the search bar and find it, there is quite a large portion of that video which is dedicated to just talking about the incenses that I use and the purposes that I kind of connect them to. But my incense collection has grown, so I just wanted to talk a little bit about the new ones that I'm using too. And I'm going to talk a little bit as well about a few key things that I keep under my altar, and maybe I'll just go right ahead instead of telling you what the itinerary is. Okay, so at the back of the altar I have these two deity candles. One of them is obviously very much more Mexican folk art than this one, which is kind of more classically pictorial, I would say. And both of them obviously depict Mother Mary. For those of you who don't know, I was raised in an Irish Catholic family on my father's side. I was baptised in a Catholic church. I was not confirmed, and neither of my parents pushed the religion onto me because they themselves were not Catholic. But I used to love attending Mass with my nana, and the Mother Mary was the first kind of idea and image that I was exposed to as a child of the divine feminine, and I still feel very close to her image, and I still work quite closely with her. I still feel very warm and fuzzy whenever I see statuettes of her or images of her anywhere, and I have a lot of jewellery which includes her image. In the centre, between the two green candles, which are not burning because they're actually part of a working that I am doing on an ongoing basis. They look like they're totally different colours, but that's just the light. This one is also dark green. They're part of a magical working I'm doing that I am working on and returning to, therefore I only light them during that time and in sacred space. That's why they're not lit. But in the middle, between them, you will see an image of St. Martha. I'm really into St. Martha. I loved her from a really young age. In fact, her feast day is coming up in July, I believe. But when I got a bit older and I started trying to kind of dig around and find out information about her, I found out that the reason why she's the patron saint of cooks, in fact, which was always really interesting to me. And I suppose by extension you could say that she's the patron saint of being a good host or hostess and hospitality in general and that kind of thing. A few years ago I probably would have quite angrily assumed that that was kind of like counter-feminist, but these days I like it. I mean, I cook a lot. I cook every day. I cook every meal from scratch. So, you know, me and Martha have a really close connection on that basis. But there's a story where Jesus comes to visit Martha and her sister Mary in their house. And Martha's in the kitchen, busying herself with the dinner, really stressing out, kind of wanting everything to be perfect. And her sister Mary actually just sits down and starts listening to Jesus talk and having a discourse with him. Martha is really stressed out by this. She wants Mary's help. She doesn't understand why Mary isn't concerning herself with the dinner. So instead of going to Mary and saying, look, you know, what's up, get in the kitchen, she goes to Jesus and asks Jesus to intervene. And Jesus just says to Martha in a loving and kindly way, you know, actually, you're missing the moment. Listening to me talk about the principles that you so enjoy and are so committed to is way more important than making me the perfect dinner. You know, so you're losing yourself in the distraction of the mundane, when really the reality that you need to be married to is here and now with me listening to me speak. And I think actually that's a very relatable story for so many of us these days, that we lose ourselves in the distractions and we lose ourselves in the everyday and we forget to tune in and check in. And so I really love that story, and I'm still a huge fan of St. Martha. So she's in the middle, and my best friend at the time brought this back for me from Dublin when she went on holiday to Ireland. It was many, many, many years ago, so I've had it for a long time. And I love it, so I popped her on my altar, probably for the first time, I think. Yeah, I've carried her around with me a lot, but she's never been the central spoke of my altar, so that's cool. And then up here I have my pink rosary, which I've been using to pray and to meditate. I also have these prayer beads. These are one of my key sets of working prayer beads. They were given to me as a gift by somebody who won one of my tarot giveaways. They're made of jet and carnelian, and they have a chaos star on them, and I keep them with a piece of clear quartz, and they always are on my altar. I also use them, but I use them more in magical workings and to drum up energy and that kind of thing. I have this wonderful oil that was made by Joey Morris from Starry Eyed Supplies. I actually have 2 of her things on my altar, in fact. This is so beautiful, and it has little flecks of amethyst in it. I tend to put some on before I begin my spell work. I did that the other day, and it was incredibly... It just really brought me into the moment, and it helped me to kind of centre my power. As soon as I smelled it, I just felt like I was ready to do something. I also have rose on my altar at the moment because I'm using it to consecrate and keep the energies high with regard to what's in this box. I am working on some manifestation stuff, and this box is being charged and is being kept on my altar as sacrosanct because of what's within it. There are words within it, and I'm slowly kind of working on it and directing my energy towards it. And there's rose oil on the paper that's inside, and I will kind of keep doing that and keep replenishing it and sprinkling it over the box, etc. Rose for me is very divine feminine, and so it just goes with what's on the altar at the moment. I feel like rose speaks to me so much of potential and of connecting with your feminine sense of receptivity and creativity in order to really bring something to pass. Obviously also it has a very healing quality. Actually I was burning rose here, but it's done with now. But I'm not going to pick it up and take it off of the altar, because often with cone incense you will find it looks like it's dead, but when you go to dispose of it, the core is still burning within. So I would say for anyone who doesn't use cone incense, be very careful of that, because it can look like it's ash and it's ready to go in the bin, but then actually when you throw it into the bin it's still burning at its core, so you've got to be very careful. The other thing I would suggest for people that maybe aren't used to cone incense and are thinking of trying it is make sure that the first time you use the little dish that comes with the set, you place it on something which you know is fireproof, because sometimes the dishes that come with these little sets are not actually fireproof. I've had problems several times with cute little bowls that have come with cone incense actually not being fireproof and burning through onto my altar cloth. Back in the day that happened to me a couple of times through the years, so be careful with that. This one is fireproof. This one is a sturdy thing that's been with me a long time, so I know that for sure. This is my bottle of black protection sea rock that I also bought from Starry Eyed Supplies. I actually like to use this for a sound mechanism. I like to shake it in rather a shamanic way, I suppose, and I shake it in a pentacle kind of shape, and I shake it over boxes that I'm using and manifestation work, the receptacles that I'm using for that. I also like to keep it on the altar, just for what it says on the tin, really, for protection, for clearing the energy and for making sure that there's nothing nasty in my circle. This is my little bell. It has a very modest little noise to it. Again, I use this for energy clearing, and for the time that this box is on my altar, I will, when I sit down to do my daily altar work, I will actually mark the pentacle using this bell over it to clear the energy using sound. At the front here I have 4 working crystals. This is actually what I use as an athame. I use this to cast out a circle quite a lot of the time. This is a very powerful clear quartz and I love it to pieces. It is just so beautiful and it is always on my altar. My rose quartz palm stones, I use them when I sit meditation. I place one in each hand. I love these. These are also super powerful. I place these on my altar because they have such a direct connection to the divine feminine vibe that I was going for, and I love them to pieces. I just think they're so beautiful, and I have my beautiful amethyst with the pyrite in the corner of it. And this really tunes me into the third eye. It helps me activate the third eye. I feel very connected to my sense of spiritual intuition when I have a bit of amethyst around, and it will always be and has always been my favourite stone by a long way. So that is my working altar at the moment. I'm just going to talk you through what I'm keeping underneath it at the moment. First of all, I have these really, really long candles. If you're thinking of working with glass deity candles like the ones that you see on the back of my altar, make sure that you purchase some really long candles with them because you'll find after the first couple of times you use them that you can't use a smaller match or a lighter to get your hand in there and actually light the things. I'd also recommend buying a box of standard matches anyway, because when you get these long boxes of matches, sorry, you only get this little thing on the surface to actually ignite them with, and as you can see, it very quickly becomes kind of quite worn. So I would recommend getting a standard box of matches as well, because the strip, I don't know exactly what it is, but the strip that allows you to ignite the match is much stronger on a standard pack of matches, so I'd recommend that too. So I'm keeping them under my altar at the moment. I also, as I'm sure a lot of witches do, keep candles, big bags of candles under my altar, different colours of tea lights, different scents of tea lights. This box is usually on my altar. This is so beautiful. I thrifted this a while ago and I absolutely love it. I think it's got a really Japanese Shinto kind of vibe to it, and I have used this box for manifestation work too, to actually kind of direct my energies towards what's inside and kind of encase what's inside and make it sacrosanct. I love using boxes in magic. It's one of my key things that I do. But at the moment this is under the altar, and inside it I keep my other set of prayer beads, which were also from Starry Eyed Supplies, which I love very, very dearly, and I use these when I'm addressing my matron quite often. I also use them to send out healing intention, but I do use them primarily for my matron. When I saw them on Starry Eyed Supplies, I knew that was what I was going to use them for. I just had this sense, and they came and they were just so powerful. I also have in this box my protective eye. This is what I use to cleanse my altar space after I have changed it, or when I generally feel like it just needs a little bit of housekeeping, a little bit of maintenance, and I will pass it over the altar once in the shape of the pentacle and once in the shape of the chaos star, and I will have different words that I say for those two things. And I'll pass them through a few times, and I also use incense quite a lot to cleanse the altar. And what I would say, if you've got a permanent altar, or if you want to have a permanent altar, it's really, really so powerful and so potent to do work with it on a daily basis, to sit in front of it on a daily basis, just for your meditation sometimes, or just to do a little bit of what I would call housekeeping, a little bit of cleansing, just a little bit of incense burning, passing incense over things, just whispering words of positivity or mantras of balance over the altar. And you know, even if you're not planning on doing any active work, show some love to your altar every day, and you will form that bond, you will forge that intense connection. And that means that when you come to do spellcraft, when you come to celebrate the Wheel of the Year at any point, the connection is so strong, you feel like it's your home, you feel like it's a place you're supposed to be, and that's so magical. One of the other things I'm currently keeping under my altar is this really, really cool box. I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog too. She was one of my favourite witches growing up, of course. And in this box I have some more of my working crystals, although some of them actually are in this box doing their thing on my behalf, just making their little energies fizz up and helping my spellcraft come to pass. So, but yeah, I keep a box of working crystals under my altar just for ease. I also sometimes keep runes under my altar, but my runes aren't under my altar at the moment. I use runes to commune with my matron, of course, because she is the Norse goddess of the underworld, so what other divinatory tool would there be that could be any more suitable than that? But at the moment my runes are in another place in the room, which is also kind of a sacred place in the room, but is not my key working altar where I come to sit, where I come to do things. Down the side of my altar I usually keep this book, which is my spell book, which is just so beautiful. And that's normally down the side of my altar, but I've moved it out to show you today. And actually at the moment down the side of my altar too, I have my H.R. Geiger book, because I am planning to do a very elaborate cosmic goodbye and hello to him since he passed on to the astral. I have been really dying to commune with him and say my thank yous in person. This is a very Chaos Witch thing to do. Are you going to go to the funeral? No, it's cool, I'll say goodbye in person. So I'm going to do something really extravagant to mark his passing and to say thank you for the incredible impact he had on me while I was growing up, and just the darkness of his art, the insatiable madness of his imagery. So that's down the side of my altar at the moment too, because I'm kind of planning for that. Now I'm going to talk you through my new incense that I've been using. First of all, Annika, I don't know if you're watching this, but you said a while ago on my Facebook page that you wanted to get hold of some mint incense. This is really good. I know a lot of people are snobby about stick incense, so you might not want to use it if it's not your thing. But if you do use stick incense, I would recommend flute incense. Oh, no, you can't get it. Flute incense, mint, really, really good. And I've been using that for purification and a little bit of zing and a little bit of zang. Obviously, the usual stuff that you would obviously use mint for. Same with lemon. Lemon is a good purifier. I've not used lemon incense before. I normally use cinnamon or frankincense for purifying and cleansing. I'm sure there's other things I use, but I can't think of them now. But actually, lemon has been really good, and my boyfriend's really keen on it too. Kiwi, let me tell you, if you are in the market for some new incense that you've never tried before, get your hands on some kiwi. All of this stuff is from Flute Incense, by the way. I think it's really good. This is so good. God, as soon as I burn it, I just feel so motivated and so switched on and so ready to do something. It's ridiculous. So yeah, definitely get your hands on some kiwi incense. I've been using Thousand Flowers incense, and I've actually been using this primarily for tarot readings that I'm doing. When I do tarot readings, I do use incense and I do use crystals to invite the energies and the messages that I want in relation to the theme or focus area of my client and that kind of thing, to get myself into the correct headspace and to kind of invite the powers that I want to come through in the messages from the cards. And Thousand Flowers has been super popular for me lately, with readings about abundance, readings about finance and business, but also readings about relationships and trying to get that love to flow and trying to help the heart chakra to truly open. Thousand Flowers has been really effective, so I would definitely recommend that. Lavender I picked up. I've worked with lavender a few times in the past. Not actually my favourite scent in the world, but much like my relationship with cinnamon, I actually use lavender for what it does. You know, cinnamon is not my favourite in the world, but I use it because it's such a hardcore purifier, I think. So I kind of deal with the smell in order to get the result that I want from it. Lavender is kind of similar. I do like it, but it can be quite overwhelming. But I use it because I feel it really helps me to activate and open up the heart chakra. If I'm working specifically with the heart chakra, if I've got healing and release work to do, lavender is so lovely. Angelica I purchased, but I have not used it yet, so I can't give you the verdict on that. Sunflower I purchase normally once a year, and it's always around summer solstice. So summer solstice is here, I have my sunflower, that's what I'm going to use. Although I have also used sunflower incense to commune with the spirit of Allen Ginsberg for reasons to do with his poetry and sunflowers and a vision that he once had of a sunflower. So I won't go into that, but yeah, it was some hardcore chaos witch action going on there with Alan. And finally, Sandal Rose. I've also not cracked this, so I can't tell you what I think of it yet, but I'm kind of excited about it because I think it's going to really tap me into this divine feminine vibe that I've got going on here at the moment. And I think that's about all I wanted to say for now, apart from the fact that it looks like these candles are completely different colours, but they're not. They're totally the same colour, it's just the light is over here and not over here. So yeah, I suppose I just wanted to let you guys know a little of my practice and what I do, and you know, just housekeeping with the altar and enjoying having an altar space. Like, it's a total luxury, and I love changing it up, and I love coming to it every morning, and I love appreciating it. I love looking over at it and just knowing that it's my little space. Of course, every little patch of earth, every little piece of brick on this planet is my place, and I am it, and it is me. But in terms of connection, in terms of fostering that connection, having a place I can go to do spell work and to really feel as though I've come to the centre, I've come to the core of myself as a witch, that's for me what the altar is really about. It's about me and my witchy time. It really is. And I'm going to talk more about that in my next video, actually. I might do it today or I might do it tomorrow, it depends if I've got time. But I would like to talk more actually about spellcraft and about bringing your witchy self into everyday life. So yeah, that's coming, It's going to be a little bit about the best way to kind of do spells for me, the most potent things that I've kind of learned, particularly about the words that one uses and stuff like that. But also just going to be about rocking your witchy self in everyday life, you know, not leaving your power in the circle, as I so like to say. But that's all for now. That's just kind of my little altar setup as it is at the moment. It's not very grand because this is really the only room in my house that I would feel comfortable having an altar, and there's not a lot of room in this. particular room that I'm using for my altar. There are a couple of other sacred spaces in here too, a few shelves where I have different things and where I do go for reflection as well, but the big spaces in the room we're using for my boyfriend's music setup and also for kind of my everyday stuff that I want, my makeup and things like that, and I wouldn't choose to change that. I think that this is just a sweet, humble little place for me to come and be, and I'm very comfortable with it, and I've got my little meditation cushion, and so it kind of works out for me at the moment, and I don't think really that I would choose to have a bigger altar space than this. In fact, I think this works perfectly for me. I'm a short, small human, and I have a short, small altar, so I guess it just kind of works for me from that perspective. But thank you all for sharing your altar spaces and talking about all that stuff, because I do find it so fascinating. And until next time, very much love. Blessed be.